check in with someone familiar to this area. He played high school ball at Vista Ridge. He played quarterback at Rice, and now he's a rising commentator and analyst for CBS and ESPN. Grew up listening to the radio shows that were on, Rod. He is Taylor McHargue, who is going to be calling some games this weekend. Taylor, how are you, man?
What's up, Taylor?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you
Thanks for
doing
coming
it.
on.
How's rising analyst life for you? How are things? You got some games this weekend, right?
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, this is a busy one. I've got a Thursday night game tonight. I've got UAB and Trent Dilfer's first game as their new head coach, and then we go to Lynchburg, Virginia on Saturday and have Bowling Green and Liberty, and Jamie Chatterwell's first game at Liberty, and then TCU next week, and then it just, the show goes on from there. But excited to be back on the road and have the season get going.
Yeah, and you, like us, Taylor, probably happy to be done talking about games and ready to watch some football, including the games you have tonight. So talking season is over. Rod, you've been doing the deep dive on the Rice Owls and watching old games, so go ahead.
Yeah, Taylor, thanks for joining us, man. And I just want to get your thoughts about the offense. Marcus Tuiasosopo is the new offensive coordinator, and I know he wants to run the football, but they have been slowly transitioning to more of a passing game. Last year had their best passing offense since 2008, 65th in the country. Now you got JT Daniels, who is the highest rated signee, I believe, in program history at the quarterback position. Luke McCaffrey's the best weapon they have also offensively. That's going to be in the passing game. Am I crazy to think that they could open up this game passing so they can run to try to soften Texas up a little bit? Not vertical, just high percentage, easy completions, RPO, quick game, screen game. That's what I'm thinking. Am I off thinking about that?
No, I don't think you're crazy for thinking that. If Texas fans think back 2 years ago to Texas coming on the road or Rice coming on the road and playing Texas, and Texas just totally dismantled Rice. That offense, it's evolved over the past couple years, similar to what you mentioned. And for people that don't know, Mike Bloomgren came from Stanford. He was the offensive coordinator during that stretch where he had Christian McCaffrey. They were in a lot of two tight end sets. They're running the ball right at you. And at Stanford, there were a lot of first-round picks. There was a lot of NFL talent on that team where they could really bully people around in the Pac-12. It's a lot harder to do at a place like Rice, especially with the offensive line talent that you tend to get at Rice. And so the first couple of years for Mike Bloomgren, it was a lot of continuing to try and run that philosophy and run the ball right at people. And slowly over time, like you mentioned, they have morphed into more of a pro-style, still a pro-style offense, but expanding the downfield passing game. And the piece that's been missing for a long time now has been the quarterback spot. They have really underperformed at the quarterback level. I think they were second to last in the country last year in interceptions thrown. So JT Daniels, even though he's on his fourth stop and there's been a lot made of how a lot of people feel like he certainly hasn't lived up to the hype, this is still, Rice is expecting this to be an upgrade for what they've had at quarterback for a long time. And so I would expect you will see more shot plays than you have in years past from Rice. I think you'll see more downfield, multi-leveled, full field reads, things that Rice just hasn't had the ability to do for a long time. And then the last piece is you got to be able to protect for it, and Texas is certainly going to be a challenge there for Rice. But I do think you'll see more of the playbook opened up against Texas in this week one for Rice than you have, especially 2 years ago, the last time Texas played Rice at home.
Good stuff right there. And, yeah, they've rotated three different quarterbacks each of the last 3 years and trying to find that consistent player at the position. And, obviously JT Daniels has bounced around, but, to start at his fourth different Power 5, this level of college football, pretty impressive. And at least you're going to have a guy that's a veteran that is not going to be intimidated by DKR. He's played here twice already with different programs, so at least that gives you an opportunity. Taylor, since you played at Rice, Mike Bloomgren, all the word is the recruiting has picked up. He's kind of understanding the level at which he's recruiting and playing at, and they're moving into the American Athletic Conference. I think there's some, whether they're confident about this game against Texas week one, there's confidence that they can compete and try to get themselves into a bowl game this year.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And this also is the best schedule that Rice has had in a long time. They have 7 home games for the first time since the 80s. Rice tends to be, and look, when I was there, we played a lot of games like the Texas and A&Ms and Baylor's and Texas Tech's where you look at your non-conference schedule and you hoped that you could get one win. A lot of times it was 1-3, 0-4 in non-conference, and it was what it was. This is the first year that Rice really feels like in a long time. They've got Houston at home. Not sure what Houston's going to look like. this year. They've got Texas Southern, and they've got UConn at home. And so they feel like there's a real chance for them to get a couple wins, 2 or 3 and out of conference, and then play well in conference. Should be able to have a pretty good opportunity to get to the postseason in the first year in the American. And that was a big deal for Rice to get out of Conference USA and move up to the American Conference. If you follow where power rankings are for college football, Conference USA is now dead last, and the American is in the 6th spot. So right after the Power 5 conferences, the American is right there with teams like Tulane, Memphis, SMU. So it was a big deal for Rice to get up to the American Conference.
Hey, Taylor, I want to ask you about weapons in the passing game because for JT Daniels, because Luke McCaffrey, he's the real deal for them. They'll find different ways to scheme him open, but they had a lot of receivers end up leaving. Transfer portal end up getting Bradley Rosner. I believe Isaiah Esdale just end up graduating, Cedric Patterson as well. If those guys had come back, man, this receiving core would be really impressive. What do they have in addition to Luke McCaffrey that are going to be able to help juice up this passing game?
Yeah, that's a big unknown. You're exactly right. Losing Brad Rosner was a big deal. And for people that haven't followed who Brad Rosner is, he's an 8th-year senior. I think he's 25 years old. He might be 20. And I'm not kidding. I think he's either 25 or 26.
Wow.
Had a couple years of junior college. I think 2 medical red shirts. And then obviously the COVID year. He's been around a long time. And he's a really good ball player, but has gotten hurt a lot, had injury issues in junior college and at Rice. And he transferred out to North Carolina State. That was a loss on the outside because he was so good at 50-50 scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
But he also got hurt a lot and got to where that was a player that Rice wasn't always really counting on. And so there was contingency plans for him, assuming that either he wasn't going to be healthy, or I think by the end of spring ball, they had an idea that he may be testing out the portal. Now, Luke McCaffrey is the piece that I really would highlight because we had them last year, Rice against Houston, and they did such a good job of manufacturing ways to get him the ball, whether that was in speed sweeps, split screens, vertical shots. He had a really long ball touchdown against Houston where he got over the top of the safety, and he's got elite speed, and it's deceptive because you see him get off the bus. He doesn't look quite like his brother, but he's still a phenomenal athlete. And that is a guy that I would highlight for Texas fans to pay attention to because Rice will do everything they can to get Luke McCaffrey the ball.
Absolutely. All right, the Texas side of it. Do you still make your home here in Central Texas, Taylor, when you're not traveling to games?
Hey, I do, and I married a former Palm Squad Texas Longhorn.
There you go.
Well done.
Our kid. Our kid, we have a 15-month-old son, and his nursery room is all Texas Longhorn, burnt orange stuff. So
I love it.
We still live in Austin. My wife will be at the tailgate this weekend. So the house is, if you walked into our house, you'd think it's 80-20 UT to Rice. But we're still in Austin.
Well, that's awesome. Now, do you have high hopes for the Horns? I know your wife does, and your baby does. But do you think this might be the year that the expectations that are there are actually lived up to?
Yeah, I think I was on Sirius Radio last week and had this exact same conversation, and I don't think it's unreasonable to think that Texas has a legitimate shot at the Final Four this year to make it to the playoffs. And when you look at how their conference schedule lines up, you look at the tests that they have in out of conference, and then most importantly, you look at the depth. This is the best offensive line Texas has had, in my opinion, since 2009. This is a really deep wide receiver room. Catalan at safety coming in from Arkansas. That's a huge pickup on the defensive end. And then a healthy Quinn Ewers. You saw obviously what he was when he was healthy last year. If you can get that consistent performance all year, even if they lose close in Tuscaloosa to Alabama, a one-loss Texas team is a Big 12 champion. That team is going to get into the Final Four almost certainly. And I think they have that talent and that capability. Now, to me, the game that I have circled is their first Big 12 game on the road at Baylor. I think that's the one that I would have circled if I'm a Texas fan as your first test in the Big 12. It's a challenging place to play. TCU almost lost there last year, took a last-second field goal. But all that to say, I do think Texas, I think their season win total was 9.5. I would expect them to go over that. I think 10 wins is the bottom for them. And I do think they have a very realistic chance of making the Final Four.
Hey, Taylor, one more question about Rice. Since, nobody around here wants to do the deep dive on it. I love the secondary that Rice has. I want you to get into it just a little bit. And what happened to Sean Fresh? Because in the bowl game against Southern Miss, I didn't see Sean Fresh, the cornerback, who's from LBJ, actually from Austin. But he was a good player for them. And also Jordan Dunbar, the corner, and Gabe Taylor, who's Sean Taylor's little brother. That is the strength of this defense, is it not?
It is, and it has been. Josh Piercy also in the front seven. They'll move him around a little bit, but Josh Piercy is probably a first-team all-conference type of player. He's really, really solid in the front seven. That's a guy that could have transferred and played at the Power 5 level, but stayed at Rice, which was a really big deal for them to keep him. Gabe Taylor, for people that don't know, that is Sean Taylor from the Washington, formerly Redskins. That is his little brother. And really dynamic player, plays with a ton of energy. Anytime you go to practice or a walkthrough, he's kind of the tempo setter. He's the one that brings the juice, so to speak. And that's a veteran. He's played a lot of college football, and they definitely look to him on the back end for leadership. The defense for Rice, in my opinion, I actually think there's more production there than there is on the offensive side that's coming back, even for guys that were backups last year, but that played a lot of football. And I do think this will be, however you want to slice it, this will be the best defense that Mike Bloomgren has had since he's been there.
Wow.
All right. Well, looking forward to it. 2:30 is the kick time, and Taylor McHargue has been helping us talk about it. Former Rice quarterback, former Vista Ridge quarterback, a local product who's still local but doing great work, rising as an analyst, as you can hear with his work at ESPN and CBS. And hopefully will join us more often during the college football season. Thank you, Taylor.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Taylor. You the man.
That's good stuff right there.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Rice kid.
I love the ATX Jags fan comment here. That man called out the Palm Squad like the brag he knows it is. You're damn right. Everybody who's dated a Palm Squad girl, and by the way, I've dated a Palm Squad girl.
Shout out.
I dated the Palm Squad captain who actually invented the chaps. Mm-hmm.
Thanks to her.
Yes, so we're all
get her
we're all
of
in debt
applause?
to this. Yes. Yes.
She invented them?
Yeah. That's what I was told. Throwing it out there.
Way to go, Rod B. Way to go, Taylor. Yeah. Former Vista Ridge Ranger in his day. So a familiar name and to high school football fans in the area, college football fans, and still living here. And yes, he called it out. I married a Texas Palm Squad.
You damn right you did. Good for you.
Good for you.